Okay, so Good Fortune. Right, this is the brand new film from Aziz Ansari. Yup, yup. Right, it is his feature directorial debut, in fact. Right, he directs, he also writes the joint, and he produces along with Brad Fujikawa, John Humphrey, Anthony Katagas, and Alan Yang. It is co-produced by Bernie Stern, Jonas Spacatelli, and Kelsey Comeau. Right, it is executive produced by Aziz as well, Connor Di Gregorio, Jonathan McCoy, Christopher Woodrow. Carter Burwell handled the score. We have Adam Newport Burra on cinematography. Right? Daniel Hayworth edits the piece. Carmen Cuba was behind all the casting. Right, we have Kay Lee on production design. Art direction is Michael Hersey and Daniel Levesque. Julia Alterschool is set decoration. Costume design is April Napier. Hair and makeup, Laura Calvo, Mikey Caprusou, Annalyn Cruz, Nana Fisher, Rosetta Garcia, Catherine Gordon, Chase Hurd, Jules Holdren, Akio Matsumoto, Alex Perrone, Marcia Pinulius, Elena Sabadiquia, Galaxy San Juan, Sweet Pea Vaughn. We also have got, let's look and see. Dum de dum dum dum. Okay, so Alec Back, Bryson Counts, Danny Downey, Louise Forsley, Jeremy Fry, Rene Moussou, Robert Nagel, Alan Paddleford, Simon Potter, Mark Skiak, Laurie Seaman, Brett Schmidge, Jackson Spidell, CJ Stewart, Olivia Summers, Sierra Trimble, Thomas Vu, and Danny Wynads. They were all down with the stunts in the film. And our cast. Well, Aziz plays Arj, right? We then have got Keanu Reeves as the angel Gabriel. There is Jeff, who's played by Seth Rogen. Eleanor, played by Kiki Palmer. Salim, I think that's Aziz's Arj's dad. He's played by Sukuf Ansari. Yep, that makes sense. Martha, right, Gabriel's boss in heaven, is played by Sandra Oh. Stephen McKinley Henderson is Azrael, one of Gabriel's workmates. We have got Leonard, right, a friend of Arge's, played by Will Sylvince. Michael Arnold is Shabia. Cam Burr is Cam. A.D. Wyrich is a Dunsmore waiter. Kari Shane is the plasma donation technician. Nina Woolworth is the shaman. We have Nate Jackson as an employee at Denny's. Eleanor's mum is played by Penny Johnson Gerald. Jay, played by Jay Trainer. Matt Rogers is Peter. Grant, played by Leo Gonzalez. Stacy Osei-Kuffour is a server. Who else is up in this? Okay, so who have I missed? Alexander Joe is Arnold. Joe Mand is Joe. Right, Rosa is played by Blanca Arcelli. I think that is our main group. Anna Marus is a bakery customer. Ricky Goulart is Kevin. Vivian Deo is a nurse. Yeah, I think that is basically it. I think. I'm not sure. I don't think I've missed anyone. Anyway, the gist of the film. I feel we get to that, right? In good fortune, Ansari plays a down on his luck guy who is working a myriad of jobs. He's called by his friend who lives in Hollywood Hills to do various jobs for him. No, I mean, that's not right because it's not his friend. Oy, well, that's terrible. You know what? Let me see what they have on the actual website because they must have something better there. Okay, let's go with this. Ah, boy. It shouldn't be that difficult, right? In good fortune, a well-meaning but rather inept angel named Gabriel meddles in the lives of a struggling gig worker and a wealthy venture capitalist. Boom. Yeah, that's basically the film, right? Now, this is, I can't remember if I mentioned, Aziz's feature directorial debut. And, you know, like, I really enjoyed Master of None, right? I wasn't sure if I would, you know, because Aziz has a certain type of humor, you know what I mean? And it's not necessarily my thing. sometimes, like, it can be hit and miss for me, right? So I didn't watch Master of None at first, but I think someone told me it was good, or I was bored one day. I checked it out and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I was hooked. Watched all the seasons. Really good. So when I heard he was, directing a film, I was like, okay. Now the first one, that hit some troubles, got cancelled, but then he moved on to Good Fortune. So I'd kind of forgotten about it, but then one of my friends in Washington, she's like, yo, I'm going to go watch Good Fortune this weekend. So I was like, oh, yes, let me check that out. So I went to cinema. Yeah, I don't know if you needed that, but hey, it is what it is. So we open up and we have, well, we don't know his name at this point, but it's Keanu Reeves as an angel standing on a building looking down at the world. Right? He's then on a bridge. Then we see him in a car. And it seems, right, because we see him several times in different cars, right? He's nudging people, right, who are texting while driving and not paying attention to the road, and he's stopping them before they crash, right? Giving them a nudge so they look up from their phone and avoid trouble. So we see that. Then we jump to Aziz, right? He's called Arj in the film, and he's a gig worker, right? He's on it's Light Task Rabbit, right? I think that's a US thing. I don't think we have it over here in the UK, but he's on the film's equivalent of that, right? He's a documentary director, but you gotta finance those things, so to help pay bills and everything, he does this gig work, right? Like waiting in a queue, picking things up, putting together furniture, all of those different things. And he also works in a hardware store. Yeah, I believe it's like, you'd call it a hardware store. And, one day he gets, what did he do? I think he drops off some food, right? He drops off some food to a guy called Jeff, who, he's in between assistants, and he gets, oh no, that's it. He hires Arj to clean out his garage. So he goes, cleans out the garage, and manages to get a trial as Jeff's assistant, right? Now, while all of this is going on, Arj meets Eleanor at work, and they start dating, right? So the film is kind of, it's this, but, and we're jumping back and forth between them and Gabriel, right? Gabriel, he's tired of just nudging people, preventing them from crashing, because another angel, Azrael, talks about all the big jobs he's doing, and Gabriel wants that life, right? He wants to be given more responsibility. And so he takes it upon himself to help out Arj. But that leads to problems, right? And the film is looking at those. It's kind of, right, addressing, gig culture, right? The pitfalls of it, you know what I mean? The fact that you have no set hours, right? You have no health insurance, holiday pay, just all of that stuff. And the divide between the poor and the rich. Those are the themes of the film, which, that's fine. That can work, right? All of that can work. The thing is, there are, well, some of the drivers for the story, yeah, they're kind of odd, right? Because, we have this whole thing about Arj and Jeff, right? Their differences. And kind of in this film, Jeff is helping Arj, right? He's employing Arj. He gives Arj a break when technically doesn't have to, Doesn't ask for a CV or anything like that. So he's helping Arj out. Now, Arj does something real shisty, right? Real shisty, Like, you could guess it was coming the moment, he received something, right? You knew, okay, there's going to be a point where he does this. And that's what happens. Now, the thing that's kind of odd, it's kind of brushed under the table, right? Because it is a serious thing, but it's kind of like, oh, all I did was, right? And you feel it's kind of forgiven, which is very weird, right? Arj doesn't look at it as being a big deal. You know what I mean? And that seems to be one of the messages, right, in the film, which is kind of like, if you were talking about social divides and everything like that, fairness, being honest and good, like, that action negates everything. You know what I mean? So we have that. I think also the relationship between Arj and Eleanor feels a bit forced. You know what I mean? Because their first encounter isn't great. And then it's just like, oh, that's all forgotten. And, suddenly they're dating. Which is, that you wonder why, right? And how. And just, it's a bit of a weird one. I think we get this other thing as well, right? So towards the end of the film, there is this kind of, what would you call it? God, I can't think of the frigging word, people. It's so frustrating. It's like a retrospective, you know what I mean? It's a look at, right, the situation, right, the landscape of things, and it gets addressed, right? But earlier in the film, right, it's weird because it gets addressed and being like, oh, that's all that's needed, right? But earlier in the film, that was there. And it was like, oh, this isn't great, right? I want more, right? So it's just like, hold on. When that was there, it was scoffed at, and now we're saying that that's all that was needed, which makes no sense, right? It's not a... Now, it can work. That can still work, right? If you say, I didn't realize that that was all that was needed, right? I thought I wanted more, but no. But that doesn't happen, It's not approached like that, which really does emphasize the unevenness of this story. It just, it's kind of flat. Now, as I said at the beginning, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Aziz comic timing, right? Now, look, there's so many comedians. There's something for everyone, right? So just because I don't vibe with it on that level doesn't mean he's not funny. But the thing I really enjoyed about Master of None was, like, there were jokes in it, but it was also like a drama kind of thing. It was like there was some seriousness there. It was sweet. You know what I mean? Like you had this heart to it, right? There was this underlying soul. You know? It was a kind of a living organism that evolved through the seasons. And that was great. But this, it really kind of feels flat. It doesn't feel like there is any scaffolding in there. You know, it's kind of one-dimensional. Because the interactions feel clunky at times, right? Like the delivery all feels performative, right? It doesn't feel natural. And Master of None feels natural, right? There's a natural flow and ease to it all. Where this, as I said, it does feel clunky, right? It feels forced. It feels that it is rudderless, even. You know, which, yeah, just it's odd because some of the people that work behind the scenes on Master of None are working on this, right? So I think he has a co-writer and a writer's room on Master of None, where this, he kind of wrote it himself. Maybe that is the thing, right? Because, you know, I think sometimes when we look at first drafts, right, you go, ooh, what the fuck was I thinking there? And you polish it up and it's better and better and better. Or, you know, there's certain things that you're not always great at. So you hand it across to someone else to, breathe the life into that part of it. But it doesn't feel like that happened here. You know? And I think that's the big thing. Because, you know, if you're looking at morality and, you know, good, like bad, the grey areas, right? The economic divide and just all of these different things, then it doesn't really serve as a guiding light for those things, right? It's kind of like a whatever you can get away with is cool, right? Which, you know, you're watching it, that clearly is not the message that they're hoping to put across. Right now, if you want to put across whatever you can get away with, that's all fine. But you need it to feel consistent, right? That is what you're doing. And watching this, that is not what they're doing, right? Which makes it so bizarre. And it kind of gets wrapped up real neatly, you know? Like people have these quick epiphanies all over the shop, which is kind of bizarre. Very bizarre. And here's the thing, like the acting, it is odd, right? When you look at the cast is great. We have really good actors here. But as I said, it all comes off as a little performative, which, yeah, it's kind of like it's straddling the fault of being a drama and the fault of being a comedy, and not really committing to either. So you just get this weird, like, oh, who are we? I'm not sure. Right? It's like the film has a split personality, you know? And I think if they had committed to one or the other, it would have been better. Right? Like, if this was done like Clerks 2 or Zack and Miri Make a Porno, right? If it was that kind of vibe, I feel this would have really worked. Or you could make it like Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind. You know what I mean? I mean, it can even just be a drama that has some comedic moments in it, right? But you have to kind of decide on what you're doing, and this just doesn't do it, and that's to the detriment of the film. Now, we have seen a few, people make their, like, actors make their directorial debuts, and although I kind of feel this isn't incredible, it isn't as bad as something like Pool Man, right? It's not as bad as Pool Man, and it's not as bad as Charlie Day's directorial debut. I can't remember what that one was called, but poof, yeah, this isn't as bad as either of those. Right? Now, I will say, if you enjoyed those, you will enjoy this. You know what I mean? And it is better. Right? So there is that, right? Yeah, look, I didn't really enjoy Sausage Party. But again, if you enjoyed Sausage Party, I think you'll enjoy this. You know? Like, there was a film back in the day, Employee of the Month, right? It's kind of that kind of vibe too. So yeah, those kind of things. If that kind of comedy is you, then Good Fortune is probably worth a check. But if you feel I'm wrong, people, let me know, right? How did you find it? Did you think this was a solid directorial debut? Did you laugh, right? I didn't laugh once. The screen was pretty empty. It was a late night showing, right? Now, there were a few people at the back who did seem to be laughing. So, as I said, it's a kind of a taste thing, the humor that you like, right? Probably if you are a big Aziz stand-up fan, you will enjoy this, right? So it has just come out, right? So it's probably going to be around for a little while. But yeah, if you are a fan of any of those things I mentioned, then people go check out Good Fortune.